Hey Saber fans, so it's thin neck time. It's a nice little budget Leia thin neck though. This is from the pach store. I got it empty for about 90 or so bucks on May the 4th. Got it empty, designed a chassis, and here we go. Of course, you guys know I love proffie, so it's got proffie 2.2. Rocking that Kyberphonic Princess Leia font. Can't remember his name for it off the top of my head for some odd reason. Yeah, not a bad hilt though. There are a few things I don't understand why that it's the pach store. I don't expect extreme accuracy from them, but yeah. Whenever you first get it, it has a 12mm hole and 12mm is normal. Then up here it's a 10mm hole. So you can't really get one of these switches in there because it's meant for like a recharge port opening so you can plug it in and whatnot. I said screw that, I bored it out to 12mm and I countersunk it to where it is set more flush with the hilt. There's not really I think that's the only real good way to grip this though, is like I don't know, like having two of your fingers in between that collar and up here. I think that's the only way. Some more Kyberphonic. Let's go back to Leia. Of course, color changing on the fly. So let's do some blasphemy here. Put it on some dark side colors. God, I love FET 263's blade styles. Let's get a darker blue. There we go. So, and the config, I only have it for a saved preset. It's whatever one saves the one that you're on whenever you cut power. So, cut power, it'll still be on Leia, versus default config, it'll go back to the very first one. Now, saved color is not an option, or, well, I didn't make it an option on this one. So every time you cycle through all the fonts, it'll go back to blue, or for instance,
green.
That'll be green.
Red.
You know.
Green.
Let's go back a little bit. It's so much easier to go back on fonts with actual buttons like this, but I'm still not a huge fan of 12mm switches. Like, I was kind of playing around with the idea of getting a control box from TCSS and putting it on here, but it would have just, no. But this is technically font number 1, Eton. Fantastic font. So Eton, Princess, all of Kyberphonic for Kyber's Workshop, and then the defaults for Teensy. Of course, those can be changed on a whim. It's just up to the end user, really. A few of the things I don't quite understand with this hilt, and quite a few things I like about it. So one, we have 3 set screws here for blade retention. Yeah. Count them. 1, 2, 3. And the blade socket, for your blade, you will need, you can't really pick it up on some tape there. Whether it's scotch tape, masking tape, whatever, packing tape. The hole on this is a little too big. It is the same diameter as what's down through here. It's 26mm. If anyone knows millimeters, it should have been 25.4 or around there. And a little blade plug. neopixel blade plug. And a neopixel PCB in there. You can catch it. So one thing I really like about this hilt is the fact that they made this little section just a little bit bigger in there for a 28mm speaker. So I went with a sled chassis on this one. It doesn't pull out too far because what I did was I got the switches wired, you know, soldered those on, and then I had my wires going from the board up to the neopixel module, and I tied in the positive there from the battery. If you're following me, you know, pretty much the neopixel was the last thing I wired, so I could get this length real good. So whenever you push it back in, don't twist it too much. It can sit nice and flush against there. It's freaking loud. Perfect. Real loud. Whew. Damn nice hilt. Use one of those proffie board blue PCBs from Tritium. Soldering is definitely not the cleanest in the world, but I was having a hard time getting this chassis to work for a 26mm diameter. Yeah, there's not a lot of room to work with, especially with the two switches right there. Pretty much have from there to there for a sled. Not much to work with, and yeah. I could have went with a smaller speaker, but why, right? Made a little kill key for it. Had to modify that way it would actually slide back up in there, and you can actually display it without the chassis sticking out. One thing I really don't understand about this replica is why the hell did they put a freaking screw hole there? Like, it wasn't even threaded either. It's just a freaking hole. Same for these. Maybe it's for the electronics installed ones, but like, you put a button head in that and it's going to be sticking out like a sore thumb. I mean, they included some black button heads for these, but those wouldn't even fit. The holes were too big, so I think those black sockets, actually here they are right here. These screws were meant to screw into a plastic chassis for the cheap $50 upgrade Chinese sound stiff. And it's got good sound venting, really good. Now this is actually a threaded hole down here, which they don't include a screw for. Not an accurate one, but it is threaded. I'm willing to bet that's an M3 or an M4. So you could probably get fancy, you know. I was thinking about it earlier, driving around town, dropping off stuff. If you came up with something similar to the 7 Chambers Acolyte, where it's like a threaded section coming down into a dome, you thread it in there, you know, put a nut on the other side, and then put a tri-ring on it, or a D-ring, or whatever. Anybody who has lathe experience could probably figure that out relatively easy. Well, maybe not easy, but easier than I could. Oh, so yeah, I tapped these for a 632. Then I had a couple of socket heads laying around from Mara Jade hilt. Bought a bunch of extra button head screws for that. And that's a 632 screw as well. I just plugged that in just so that sound wouldn't escape through there, and it's all being pushed. It's all being pushed out through here. And it's got some nice resonance. I mean, it fits perfectly in there. You know, I originally thought I was going to have to do like a 24 or 22mm speaker, but no, you can do a 28, and you can tell it's a pusher. It's loud. Anything else I want to go over with this? Can't remember if I mentioned the blade depth. Blade depth is like barely over an inch. Pretty good blade depth, you know what I mean? It's a fairly beefy sized emitter. I mean, from there to there, it's about 1 3/4 from that little lip to up here, 1.75 inches. Got over 1 inch of blade depth. I did custom 3D print a PCB holder and used short pin PCBs. That way they don't get damaged. I think the only other way to do this would be with a TCSS PCB and short pins, or even better, a stock short pin PCB, which they're all using short pins, so no worries about damaging it with a blade. He mentions on his site this is dual worthy. I would be okay with dueling with this. The only thing I wish would have been different would have been this all be one piece. So it unthreads here. It's got an 1/8 of an inch of thread, so I mean it's not bad. And then it threads here. If you would have had this all one piece and it just threaded in here, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, beat a tree trunk with this thing. But yeah, light to medium dueling, definitely. It's not like it's not like you have a heatsink cup holding down the emitter onto that or anything, you know. Like there's no internal threadings holding this together as opposed to the emitter threading onto this. I see quite a few companies doing that nowadays, and it's just wouldn't deal with that. Like for instance, I'll give you a good example right here. A Texas Custom Sabers Luke, meant for dueling. It's been proven. Even my roommate's proven it, and he's a pretty tough guy. The only threading there is the emitter comes off, and that's normally to get your blade in there because it uses O-rings and whatnot. But it's all one piece. From there to there. This does not come off. I know why people do it that way because they have the real copper and whatnot, but you know, like this sucker can take a beating. And the powder coat's done real nice too. Yeah, good job, Texas Custom Sabers. Nice hilt, really nice hilt. It's a little easy to hit the buttons whenever you're holding on to it. Pretty easy to hit them, even just gripping it. Kind of got to get the right grip section, like right grip placement to not hit them. Or you can go up here and definitely not hit them, you know. Do this little maneuver right here. These are not overly sharp. I would definitely not say they're overly sharp. They are a little abrasive, but not bad. That's another thing I really like about this hilt. The grips are all part of it. Like this from here to here is all one piece. So yeah, a lot of time went into that piece, and it's pretty damn good. And for the price, you can't beat it. And this is quality anodizing. One thing I did notice, a little blemish on here. I'm not expecting anything better for you can kind of see it. It's not going to focus. There's a little bitty divot right in here. It looks like it was scratched before anodizing. But that's, aside for blemishes, that's all that I've seen. Could it be improved? Oh God, yes. You know, I'm assuming the reason they did 3 set screws was one for LED module and the other 2 for blade retention. You could have went with just one for blade retention, but they have their reasons. Nice and slim. Really slim right there. A little bulkier there, but still really nice. And this is not overly beefy. Not at all. Yeah, nice hilt. Hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, may the force be with you always.